video is going to have so many jump cuts because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to video editing or video taking or anything that involves me being perceived. But have fun with it. Hi, class. So I'm really terrible at being on video, so I'm going to try to make this as painless for all of us as possible. My dimension that I'm focusing on is going to be emotional health. I personally have a lot of experience with dealing with emotional health, so let's just jump right into some personal experience too. I'll start with the definition being that the ability to cope with both positive and negative emotions, which includes your awareness of them, along with it's how a person manages their thoughts, feelings, and emotion will encompass what emotional health and emotional wellness is, which basically means how you go about getting through the day and how you handle all of the different changes and difficult things that life brings along with you. And there are a few different ways to do that. So the first way that everybody really knows about is doing it yourself at home and taking care of yourself, like taking a bubble bath or I don't know, going on little shopping sprees within your legitimate, reasonable budget. Spending time with friends and loved ones, having art projects, watching your favorite show, getting some sleep because that's very important. Get your sleep. I do Balloon Day, which is where I go to the dollar store and I buy a couple bags of balloons and I just blow them all up. No helium. And I'll just blow them all up and I'll just sit with them and you can just bounce them around. If you have animals, it's super fun. If you have kids, it's super fun. I recommend it highly when you're having a very stressful day because it is a cheap and easy way to get through the day. But more than that, I don't want to just talk about like the little things you can do throughout the day because there are people who suffer with a lot of other things and there are a lot of different factors that can affect how you do go about your day that some people just have no real control over. But there are different things that we can do to get through them. So we're going to talk about depression a little bit, have some fun with it. It's defined as a feeling of hopelessness and despair, and it's characterized by loss of interest, fatigue, sleeping problems, and eating problems, which I'm sure at some point, especially through COVID 2020 as a whole, was difficult for everybody. And I'm sure that some of us have experienced that at one given point or another, whether it be a biological makeup that's there no matter what, or if it was something that was brought on. It's very easy to fall into those kinds of places when you are dealing with bad things and there's really no way to get through them without help. So that's what I want to talk about because there are plenty of different ways that you can get help. So I have this nice little poster board because I haven't done a poster or presentation since high school. So emotional health, emotional well-being, it's all about building resilience, reducing stress, getting your sleep, learning how to cope with loss, and being mindful and strengthening your social connections, as you can read here. The biggest thing to remember about emotional health is that everyone goes through their little bouts of issues, and sometimes you need a little bit extra help than just taking a bubble bath. I want to talk from personal experience about a mood disorder, of course known as bipolar disorder. Depression is very common. Bipolar is a little bit less common. It is something that I am currently medicated for, and I am a big proponent of taking medication when necessary. I'm sorry I'm very shaky, and taking videos is very difficult for me. But, so yeah, let's talk about it. Only 2.8% of adults in the U.S. have a form of bipolar disorder, and there are 3 different kinds that are recognized. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and then there's other unspecified bipolar disorders. There's also cyclothymia, which is more just like a lesser form where it's a little bit less extreme. Your depression isn't as severe and your mania is not nearly as severe. I'd like to cut in here that when it comes to bipolar disorder, there are the 2 major moods, the mania and then the depression. It's not always going to be straight mania. There's also hypomania, which means it's not going to be as long-lasting. Mania typically is months at a time, several months, and hypomania typically lasts like a couple weeks, maybe a month kind of thing. I experienced more episodes of hypomania and severe depression, but it's come before, and it's really difficult to deal with. But my biggest thing is that I spend a lot of money. I make a lot of risky decisions, and I make a lot of negative decisions that have horrible repercussions that I just kind of have to deal with because I couldn't help it in my own brain. But it takes about 9.2 years off of a person's expected lifespan, and is the 6th leading cause of disability in the world, with roughly 25 to 50% of those who suffer attempting suicide, and it is the number one cause of premature death amongst those with bipolar disorder. 15 to 17% take their own lives. So there's no known cause, but there are the risk factors of genetics, brain structure and functioning, and your family history. And unfortunately, women in the medical industry kind of get the rough end of the stick. We're more likely to be misdiagnosed with depression, and men are more likely to be misdiagnosed with schizophrenia rather than bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed initially with depression, but after going through quite a few different medications, and I tried talk therapy, but medication was it for me, we kind of came to the conclusion that obviously this is what I'm dealing with. And there are a few different things that you can do aside from medication. I do a daily mood tracker, which looks kind of something like this. I'll put a little PowerPoint in here with some other different things that you can do with it. But basically every day you can just choose a mood that you're feeling and you put it on the day and you kind of just circle. I journal as well, and it's really helpful in the long run. But let's go on about the 3 C's of cognitive therapy, which is going to be the most common form of therapy. It is the most studied form of therapy, and it's probably going to be the one you've heard of the most. It's called CBT. And there are the 3 C's of it being catch, check, and change. Catch being that you want to identify before the emotion even really hits you. You want to check on it and reflect how accurate and useful your thoughts are, if they're self-depreciating, or if there's anything that's causing issue for you, how you can change that and bring yourself to a more helpful kind of positive place. And it's based on the idea that your behavior affects your thoughts affect your feelings, and your feelings affect your behavior, and it's just a cycle that goes around. So the only way that you can really get through that is going to be through finding ways to manage it. And sometimes people will need to sit through cognitive therapy sessions. There are so many different places that you can go. I had a horrible time with talk therapy, personally. I didn't really have the time, resources, money, what have you, to find the right therapist for me, so I gave up pretty early on. I felt that hearing from multiple people that I was well adjusted, and they didn't know how to really help me through talk therapy because I didn't really know what to talk about. I wasn't interested in talking. So sometimes it's really difficult to find a person to go through talk therapy with, and especially if you want to move on to something like TMS, it is required that you go through talk therapy as well, and for a certain period of time. But if you are interested in seeing a person, please find the right person for you and speak up, and don't keep going if you don't like them, if you feel like it's not helping. It's a lot of money to keep doing those things, and if you feel like they could potentially be making it worse, and some people do, get out of it. So the next step is going to be medication, which is something that a lot of people will deal with, especially if you go through little sprouts of depression or any kind of issues that you might come across. It's not uncommon, and it's honestly on the rise of adults taking antidepressants, even teenagers. So there are the 4 different kinds that I want to talk about when you're talking about stabilizing mood and emotion, which are, of course, antidepressants and mood stabilizers, but also anti-anxiety medications and psychotic medications. So psychotic meaning antipsychotic or atypical antipsychotics that are meant to help both aid in sleep, and if you're dealing with psychosis, it helps with that. Anti-anxiety, mood stabilizers, and antidepressants, of course, do exactly as the name suggests. Anti-anxiety medication is wonderful because a lot of times your mental health and your emotional health can be affected negatively when you start feeling that constant dread or fear, and it just kind of ends up being something you feel like you can never get out of. So I personally recommend talking to a professional before even considering any of these medications. Look into things before you just jump headfirst into it, because it is something that affects you biologically. The last form of treatment that I want to talk about is transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy. It's becoming a little bit more known by the public. It's getting a little bit more attention now, and more physicians and psychologists are learning how to do it and opening centers. It's still not nearly as prevalent as it needs to be, because it has shown quite a few positive benefits to it. But there are a few things to consider when you're considering the transcranial magnetic stimulation, otherwise known as TMS. I actually was able to interview one of my friends about it who went through a few of those therapy sessions. It's non-invasive, it's drug-free, it's literally just like a little magnet around your head, And it has significantly less side effects than antidepressants will on your body. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that little video for you.
Okay, from the top.
Okay, TMS, my friend.
It's okay.
My friend Freedom got TMS, and she's bipolar, and she said it was really life-changing. She said that she got it, I don't even know, like a few years ago, and I was like, kept it in the back of my vault as something that was a good method of therapy. And then I ended up trying a bunch of different antidepressants, and if you opt out or fail like a certain amount of like antidepressants or antipsychotics, it's like specific medications, like not all antidepressants, and not like, it's very weird how specific they are about what you have to have had a bad time with. And then after you have that documented, and you also have to be in talk therapy too, for a set amount of time, and like recently. And then if your talk therapist recommends TMS and you failed out of a certain amount of ones, and then your insurance approves it, then you can go ahead and get it. I think you can also pay just out of pocket for TMS, but it's thousands of dollars.
It's expensive because you do it in sessions.
Yeah, you're supposed to go for 6 to 8 weeks, depending on where you live and what the treatment protocol is like. And they also, depending on where you live, like there's different TMS machines with different protocols. So like in Europe, they are already using TMS to treat things like Alzheimer's and things that like we just don't do here.
That's cool.
Right? But they have the technology over there, so maybe one day. But they have like an anxiety protocol, a depression protocol. I think in America, the only way that you can get TMS is if you're like through your insurance, is if you're not bipolar, because they said that since it sends what is it called, magnetic, like it sends like magnetic fields to stimulate your brain, sometimes it can activate a manic episode depending on what type of bipolar you have. I can't remember which one they will do TMS like with caution, and then there's another type of bipolar. I
feel like cyclomania maybe, where it's like a lot less severe maybe, but
yeah.
Damn. Okay. So how effective do you feel like it was? How long did you manage to do it for?
So I feel like I didn't get to have it be that effective because I ended up moving from Austin to here after like a few sessions. It basically feels like a tiny woodpecker is hitting your brain, and then they'll put on something like a calming video, or one time they put on like Pawn Stars and you just watch it. Yeah, I didn't appreciate it. But sometimes they'll do like motivational, like interviewing or questions while you're doing it, just to like see, I don't know, just to have it be a positive experience.
So it's not just woodpecker content.
Yeah, and you're supposed to do it like every day for 5 days for however many weeks. Like you can't miss sessions, otherwise it really reduces the efficacy of it by a lot. So I had like the weirdest dreams too, but yeah, overall, I feel like it was a positive experience. I just need to get insurance to do it again more effectively, but I definitely think it's awesome tool of therapy.
Cool!
Yay!
Yay! TMS! And that's all I got for you.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Bye!
So emotional wellness and emotional health is going to look a little bit different for everybody. My good days may not look like good days for some people, but when I can get up in the morning and I can go about my day, that's a great day. My mood is fantastic if I can at least get through the things that I need to get through the day. I always recommend going through, if you're feeling any kind of depression or some kind of form of mania, if you feel like something's wrong and your emotions aren't being managed properly and there's really nothing you can find in the DIY section of taking care of yourself to fix it, I highly recommend seeing somebody about it, because with bipolar disorder, it gets worse as you get older. There were symptoms for me when I was as young as 16, 17, and it didn't get taken care of until I was 25. And it gets harder as you get older, and I'm really happy and glad that I caught it when I did, because it would have it's the 6th leading cause of disability, and it's a huge cause of death for us people. So I recommend going to a specific website that I find all of my psychologists or any kind of doctor that I go to. It's called psychologytoday.com. I'll make sure to link it for you guys. You can put in your insurance, what you're looking for. I filter everything out by female doctors. I've had bad experience otherwise. But you have all those different options that you can filter out what you're looking for, cost-wise, just anything like that. Other than that, I just hope that everyone got something out of this, learned something new out of this. Emotional wellness is something that I learn more about every day through myself. It's very difficult, but hopefully you guys can find a good regulation for yourself. So, I cut up so much more confetti, so much more confetti. I was gonna be standing up for this video. I was gonna do a whole thing, but someone tried to steal my car 2 weeks ago, so I've been just kind of dealing with that. I didn't have time to record everything, but this is a nice talk that we had.
I'm just gonna start. So tell me about your TMS experience.
Okay, so my TMS experience happened because I had a friend named Freedom who had TMS even though she's bipolar, which they usually won't do for people who are bipolar. Quit eating her shoe! Hey, if you're gonna be... No.